Welcome to the Chapter 1 podcast, your inside look at the people powering Charlotte's business scene. Real stories, real entrepreneurs right here in the Queen City. Today we're here with Brian Tierney with Celtic Pools. And Brian, we're excited to have you on. Let's start at Chapter 1. How did you make your way to Charlotte?
Gotcha. Thanks for having me. So 16 years ago, my wife and I were in Pennsylvania, and she accepted a job to come down here and run supply chain for a multinational company. And at the time, we were newly pregnant. And so we moved down here, and so I had quit my wealth management job in Pennsylvania, moved down here, and I was a stay-at-home dad for 3 years.
Awesome. So Pennsylvania before this, right?
Yeah.
That's where you were born and raised?
No.
Okay.
So grew up outside of Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
And then moved to Chicago in high school. And then lived in Chicago till I was 35, got married, and then we moved to Pennsylvania.
So tell me about Chicago. So this is where I assume you had your first job or somewhere around that time. What was living in Chicago like? What was working in Chicago like?
Yeah, so love Chicago, great city, right? So we moved there when I was 15 and almost immediately started working downtown, summer jobs at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, which is where they trade all things from stock indices to currencies to hogs and cattle. I mean, it's crazy, right? So then I went off to school to University of Illinois, and then moved back into the city after a couple of years at Illinois. Finished up school at DePaul University in Chicago at night, which was pretty convenient from where I was living and working downtown. So I worked in commodity futures till I was in my mid-30s.
Okay.
And then we got married and moved out to Pennsylvania.
So when you get to Pennsylvania, were you start working in the same kind of stuff, or is that where you started your company? Or?
No, it was a little different. It was in wealth management, which is a little more like helping people with retirement.
Sure.
Commodity trading is a little more like casino. It's sort of organized online gambling kind of thing now. But so I was up there, moved down here, and then after 3 years, decided to look into some opportunities in developing real estate.
Okay.
And then we did that, and then we would take small plots of land, subdivide it, and build single-family homes. And then so one time we couldn't sell a house, and we decided to build a pool behind there, and that's how I started getting into pools.
Awesome. So now let's talk about what you're doing now with Celtic Pools. Explain to the people what it is that you do.
So we build, renovate, and repair high-end concrete pools. So there's shotcrete, which is the method that they shoot concrete to form a pool.
Wow.
So we have right now 4 new builds going on in Mooresville, and then we have various renovations going on. So sometimes people just need a facelift on maybe a 25-year-old pool, like we have one of those right now, and then other people need repair, and that's like sort of drives the renovation, right? If they're losing water, they have a crack, stuff like that.
What's like one of the most interesting pools or jobs that you've gotten in this industry? I imagine it's pretty cool.
So actually one not far from where we're at today, a guy called me, and he was referred by a friend of mine. He said, "Hey man, wonder if you can come out and look at my pool." I was like, "Yeah, sure. What's going on with it?" And he said, "It's empty." And so that's
there's a big problem. There's no water.
So I always joke the number one function of a pool is to hold water. And, yeah, this one is not holding any water. So he actually had a crack in his main drain on the floor of his pool, and so we went out there to look at it. And eventually, I called one of my buddies who's a plumber. I said, "Hey, can you test this drain for me?" And eventually, we ended up tying the problem to a leak in the client's irrigation system.
Wow.
And it had undermined the pool and caused the plumbing in the drain to separate. And so we ended up being able to fix it and everything for him. But because we found the additional irrigation drain, his homeowner's insurance covered it. So it was a pretty stout bill, and he didn't have to come out of pocket for it. So that was actually probably the most interesting thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
But it took a lot of info to piece that together and get the insurance company to come up with the money for him, which we were happy to do, obviously.
So moving from something like financial, advisory to entrepreneurship and owning what you own now. What was that phase like for you marketing wise? Like how did you start off marketing yourself? How did you get clients? How do you find people?
Yeah. So, interesting. So even though I always worked for, I worked for UBS, right? I worked for commodity companies. We always had to sort of sell yourself, right?
Okay.
So they didn't run a bunch of leads for me, right? I had to go out and talk to people. And I think most of the time I'm fairly able to talk to people without being too clumsy, I think. But, you have to have, the knowledge base is the biggest thing, right?
Sure.
And if you don't have that, then you're going to run into problems. So the up where I live, I've lived up there 16 years in the same neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty, well known around there, I think. And I think that goes a long way. And, because a lot of what we do is sort of a referral business. I don't think, like, we have a website and we do some social media stuff, but I don't know that a lot of people, they may find us, but I don't think that really leads to them engaging us to do work. I think it's after we go talk to them, we go present our plan to them. So I think that's where we get most of the business. And then, we have a lot of knowledge in how to build a pool correctly, because, you can get an inexpensive pool, but you might end up paying a lot more for it.
A lot of wrong ways to build a pool.
Yeah. So, that's in COVID. I think that a lot of people were in a hurry to get pools put in. And I think, a lot of people miss some steps that are vital to, a long lasting pool.
Wow. So for you, just both being an entrepreneur, but also doing what you're doing, with pools, what is it what's the thing that you love most about, what you're doing now, what you get to do?
Well, first of all, the clients are pretty excited to get a pool, right? Like, everybody's pretty excited to be able to jump in a pool. So, allows people to maximize, outdoor living at their house, right? Mm-hmm. So most of the time, people are pretty excited and pretty happy. The other thing is, like, some of my guys I've been working with a long time, and we have a lot of fun. So they're pretty good dudes, and we have a lot of fun together typically. I mean, it's a lot of laughs on the job site, so that's enjoyable, right? And there's always new stuff to learn too.
Sure.
Better ways to do things. So, like my head mason and I, we go, attend classes and stuff like that, just to figure out, what's new and best in the industry, that kind of thing. So that's enjoyable. But yeah, mostly I would say it's people on both the clients and the people you work with.
So what's something that you've run into as far as like something that people maybe just don't quite understand or take for granted a little bit, as far as like, hey, I want a new pool, but something was an oversight to them, or maybe even something that you've learned over the time of being in the industry of like, I didn't know it was going to work like that, but this is actually how it works. Like, what's one of those things? So
probably the importance of waterproofing something. So like, I joke that the pool, it's got to be able to hold water.
Yeah.
But there's certain parts of the pool that it's really important to waterproof. And watching people build pools and building pools for 7 years now. The first couple I watched be built, I was paying for them to be built, but I watched it, right? And I learned a lot of what not to do. Seriously, like
those early phases, you're learning those lessons, how to not do a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. So there's a learning curve to it, right? But so we do 4 different points of waterproofing a pool at various points that I think make our finished product hold up over time better than other people's. So like there's a pool actually on my street that was completed 4 years ago, and there's a stone place in Charlotte that features it on one of their brochures. And just this week, the current homeowner called me, and he's like, "Hey, these tiles are falling off." I'm like, "Yeah, I know why." So I mean, it's unfortunate, but
sure.
If you don't compare apples to apples when you get like a presentation from a company, then you can be just, if you look at the bottom line number and be like, oh, you're $20,000 more expensive than this other place.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily an apples to apples comparison, because they're not doing all the stuff that we're doing, right? So that's, once you can get to a client to that point, though.
Yeah.
I mean, they see the value in it.
So what does the process look like? I mean, are these people, I'm just trying to think of myself. I'm a homeowner. If I wanted to put a pool in my backyard, Like, how does that process work from me coming to you to it being completed? What does that look like?
So the first thing we do is come out and take a look at your yard, right? And we need a survey typically to make sure like you wouldn't have a septic issue. Where I live is, a bunch of septic, right? Mm-hmm. So there's some houses that, weren't set up really to have a pool. And so you got to look at the survey, look at the land, see what the topography change is and how that's going to impact it. And then we sit down and design a pool. Mm-hmm. And then, so we have 3D software where, you can see, a rendering of, what a pool would look like. And then we go into, once we get past the presentation stage and go into the contract stage, and once we get that signed, then, we apply for a permit with the municipality or the county.
Sure.
And then, so then we dig, steel, and shoot. So they'll bring an excavator in your yard, dig a big hole. Only once, but it happens. Only once have we run into bad soil, which required some extra excavation. Yeah, so you don't really know what's underneath there, right? So, we found bad soil one time, so we had to sort of over-engineer the pool. But it's pretty rare. But once that happens, dig a hole, put steel in it, and then, they'll come out to shoot it. Now, while all this is happening, you're having inspections by the county to make sure that the pool is bonded correctly so nobody gets electrocuted, that kind of thing, right? Some important stuff.
Yeah.
Right? But it's all time, right? So that's like during some of these processes, people don't they think nothing's being done, right? And you're like, no, there's an inspector coming today. We can't work until he says, we can go ahead kind of thing. But most of the time we get through that after, an initial inquiry if that comes up. Mm-hmm. But so once we shoot it, like we shot a pool yesterday in Mooresville. That's when we do the first round of waterproofing on that concrete to harden it. So we've got the plumbing through there. And so then we'll wait and then we'll start doing our tile work, which is around the pool, the tile, waterline tile and the coping. Mm-hmm. And then after that, we go to the decking and stuff like that. But the whole time there's I don't know, 5-6 different subs, like groups of subs that are out there working on it, right? So there's a lot of coordination between teams. And, like a day like today where it rained, like the electricians didn't work on pools today, right? Mm. So, everybody gets pushed back a day when that happens. So we've actually had a pretty good run here of weather, which has been great, except for the pollen, which has been a little rough on me. I'm a little congested right now. But for the most part, days where it doesn't rain are great days for us. But even we appreciate the rain day that allows us to get caught up on paperwork and doing stuff like this.
Sure. So let me ask you, and I mean, it sounds like you've only done this in Charlotte, what you're doing now.
Yes.
So you might not have a perspective outside of that, but what are some of the elements about Charlotte that you guys have to deal with when you're doing pools, as far as climate and like trees and weather and stuff, but also just like, are there regulations that Charlotte has that other places don't? Or
no, they're pretty common. It's actually, there's some things vary by municipality or county. But it's a pretty common set of standards when it comes to building waterscapes or pools, as I call them. So for the most part, that doesn't change. There may be more of a delay, like in Mecklenburg County versus Iredell County, in getting a permit. Okay. But once you're through that process, it's pretty much the same. But I'm sorry, what was your first part of the question?
It was just like, is there certain parts about Charlotte that make it unique? I don't know if it's the soil changes things or the surrounding area.
So, the soil can add a little bit of an issue in case you run into some granite underneath, which I've never happened, but I have friends who've built pools who have had that happen. A lot of the things, tree removal in front of building a pool is nice, right? So we just had the pool that we shot yesterday, the homeowner took out 28 trees.
Oh, wow.
And they hadn't, they enjoyed their backyard the way it was, right? And it was nice. And they like birds and, they had bird feeders and all this stuff, which is great, right? But they put their house on the market a year ago and they couldn't sell their house. And all of their feedback came back to their backyard, right? And so some people, thought there was enough grass or wasn't this, if they were selling to kids, right? And or it didn't have a pool. So their solution was to reach out to me to have me build a pool for them.
Wow.
And so they had to take out a bunch of trees, stuff like that, right? But that's sort of you probably talk to realtors once in a while, right?
Sure, yeah.
But so the expectation in the upper bracket of homes, right, is like everything's done and ready to move into now. I don't know if you've gotten this feedback.
Yeah.
But I mean, everything from epoxy garages to pools, right?
Mm.
So I think there's a shift probably around COVID where people thought it would be better to have their own pool, especially in some of the communities in Mecklenburg, for instance, which had a pool in their HOA. They had to close them.
Sure.
And I think now it's sort of like the expectation and the upper market homes to have a pool. People want it, and they want everything pretty much done
right
when they move in, right? They don't want to do it themselves. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's what the feedback I get from speaking to realtors. And I think, people just want to enjoy their outdoors more too, right? So those are probably two key components. I think pre-COVID, you would probably hear realtors suggest that adding a pool didn't add value to your home. Mm-hmm. And I think now it's sort of the expectation in the upper market.
So for you, if you had a chance to talk to your younger self, or maybe somebody else that's just starting off and owning their company and starting something new, what's some advice you would give to younger you or that person that's watching right now that is just kind of starting their company and they're looking for advice from people that have been doing it for a while?
So the first thing I would say is talk to everybody. I literally have always gone up and talked to people. I'm pretty good at remembering people and what they do and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so sort of not in a formal networking thing, but to the point where like people are like, hey, do you know a guy? Like, yeah. I know a guy, right? Because I talk to a lot of people. That I think has been really beneficial because, I wasn't always doing pools when I was down here, right?
Sure.
And so over time I met, a great plumber on a job, right? Who I really like. And then I met a gentleman named Carl, who I saw in the parking lot earlier today, who owns an HVAC company, right? So I know people from all lines of life, mm-hmm. and that's helpful for me if I need some guidance on something. Like some of them, even though they may be in another industry, they know something about marketing or AI. I don't, right? So that's probably where I would start.
Yeah.
But if you work hard, most times things work out all right.
That's right. So how could people find you if somebody is watching this and they think it's really interesting? Maybe they have questions about pools. Like, how can they get in contact with you?
We have a Facebook site, Celtic Pools, LKN. And then that's our website address as well, CelticPoolsLKN.com. Then via phone too, 704-923-9992. It's hard to remember your own phone number. You
a lot of
call
nines.
It. Yeah, right. But so yeah, that's most of the time people reach us via phone.
Okay.
Not too often we get inquiries through the email or something like that. Most of the time people actually have my cell phone number when they call.
Awesome. Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming on our show. This has been Brian Tierney with Celtic Pools, and we are the Chapter 1 podcast.